Hey, buddy. Hey. How are you getting on?
I'm doing great.
Yeah.
Wait, you're asking the questions.
No.
Scott.
Hi.
What is the worst part of your favourite video game?
I adore Final Fantasy VII and Metal Gear Solid, and both games suffered huge translation issues when they were brought over to the West, largely because in both cases they were both given to one person after having been developed by, either Square at the time, just Squaresoft, or Konami. They had one person who knew Japanese and English, or for whatever reason it was given to one person per game. I've talked about Metal Gear Solid in the past. Final Fantasy VII, to this day, if you play the PS1 version of Final Fantasy VII, or the various re-releases of it, still has the stupid, it doesn't make any sense. The whole thing, the way that they do all the stuff with Sephiroth, and I'm going to do Final Fantasy VII spoilers here, but only for the PlayStation 1 version, they lead you to believe that it is the same Sephiroth that's doing everything the entire way through the game, leading all the way up to the final fight at the end. That is not true. It's the clone version of Sephiroth that you've been coming up against until the very end. The only real Sephiroth is at the very, very end in whatever the hell you call Northern Crater at the very end of the game. And the whole point of that is that, the whole thing that was supposed to be about Genova, the alien, it was imitating him and whatever else, that's not barely coming across in the Western version. I forget the exact line that is on screen and that is specifically wrong, that was supposed to tell the audience what the reality of what was happening is, but it isn't. In the Japanese version it makes complete sense, in the Western one it doesn't, and the more you go digging into that, the more you'll realize that entire release of that game was completely broken in terms of the script, just because of how terrible the translation effort was. But I still adore Final Fantasy VII. I, would get a tattoo or something, but it doesn't save the script.
That poor guy.
I know! Don't even know his name, do I? So, no.
What's the worst part of your favourite game?
So, my favourite game is Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes.
It's a really difficult word to say out loud. I think I said this in another Chatty Faces the other day where I was like, I struggle to say Red Dead Redemption 2 out loud. But anyway, I've said it. I've successfully said the word, so it's all good. Very little wrong with that game. I think it's kind of flawless. But if I was going to pinpoint a moment where I kind of lose a little bit of interest, and it's only because it comes after what I think is the best moment in the game, when you do the raid on the Braithwaite Manor. I love that. It's the peak of the game for me. It's so cool, almost like a fucking Wild Bunch-esque lineup, and then you go in and have a Django Unchained-esque massacre of these absolutely deranged southern inbred people. And then after that, the actions, it switches to Saint-Denis, and I'm a big fan of when we have westerns that play with setting and perception. So the idea of both Red Dead games are set at the end of the Old West. And I love the idea of Saint-Denis being this kind of awful monolithic presence that is signifying the end of the old ways and the kind of obliterating industry of of what's to come. But I'm also at that point it slows down a little bit, because as much as I do like Saint-Denis, I think it's a gorgeous environment. You can also meet a vampire in there. It's kind of the coolest thing. The bit where you're finding Bronte and finding Jack, the pace slows down a little bit for me. It picks back up again after about another couple hours, but anything that had to follow that previous bit was always going to have a hard time. And yeah, so that's the bit where whenever I go back through Red Dead 2, it's kind of always the bit where I'm and I think it might just also be trauma-related reasons, because I think it's also when you discover that Arthur has tuberculosis. So maybe that's also maybe this is just all a me problem, and it's just I've got the fear of going to French-named towns now.
Stay away.
Yeah.
What is the worst part of my favourite video game? Well, if you've watched the channel before, you probably know that my favourite game is Resident Evil 4. I've completed it well over 130 times, and I consider it to be the best game ever made, and the perfect video game, apart from one section. In that section, if you haven't already guessed, it is the U3 boss fight. So you've just battled Krauser in this whole QTE knife fight thing, which, incredible. And then Sadler comes on the radio and he said, "Ooh, it will keep you busy," and all that sort of thing. And you're like, it? What could it be? And it turns out it is the U3 boss thing. It's a giant mutated creature that ambushes you when you're on this dangling train carriageway thing. So you basically have to shoot these little green things, but there's a time limit, whilst also avoiding the U3. Then once you do all that, you jump onto this metal chain thing, you swing away from it, and that's the end of it, because the train car falls and U3's dead, right? Well, not exactly. You then have to fight the U3 head on, and this time you can kill it. And it's just an absolute bullet sponge enemy, and it's got this one-hit kill attack that just like snaps you up. And it's so annoying. But this part, it feels tacked on, and they actually removed it from the remake, which I was happy about. I know a lot of people, cut content, I hate that. But yeah, I was fine with it because it's literally, I hated that part. But I will say that the original is better than the remake, even though it includes this guy right here.
Si, what's the worst part of your favourite game?
I'm going to cheat, because Resident Evil 2, the original, is perfect. There's nothing
This
about it.
is
There's
not
nothing about
what the
it.
council decreed.
Yes. But if there's something about it that's a little off, is that Ada Wong in it is a really good character. Like, she's actually intriguing.
Right.
The problem therein is that they never capitalise upon that in other games. After that, she essentially just becomes Alice from the movies. She's nothing more to it than that. She's just like in Resident Evil 2, the original, and to some degree the remake, although they do sort of like amp up, she's a secret spy because she wears the ridiculous sunglasses and a big long brown coat.
Hell yeah.
But you know, okay, it's kind of funny. But like, yeah, there's a real unfolding mystery. Like, she lies to you about what she's there for, and then you find out by the end that she's kind of like this double, maybe triple agent and all this stuff. And maybe she's dead, you know? And then she comes back in Resident Evil 4 and she's like cartwheeling through the air, just flirting with
That's what we all
Leon.
did that time.
Right, of course. Yeah, that was the style at the time. And yeah, not really explaining too much about where she's been and why she isn't dead, and who, you know, what she's up to. Like, I'm stealing this virus for reasons. And then she's constantly sort of backstabbing everyone that she's involved with throughout the series for her own gains. And she's been in the series for 25 years, and we're no closer to understanding what those gains are. So, yeah, she's really good in the original game, but when you get to the end, you're like, I want to find out what happens next. Nothing happens next. That is literally the end of her character arc. After that, it's just Alice from the movies. Soz.
Hello.
Hello.
What's the worst part of your favourite game?
Well,
Me old
China.
The old
Me old
question
China.
for you, me
Oh,
lord.
well, my favourite game be Okami. I'm not doing that. Right. So my favourite game is Okami. And I mean, to me, that game is just about as close to perfect as you can get. Okami got me through like the darkest times of my life, I think, and it's still always something I can come back to. I don't even necessarily have to go back and play it if I'm feeling down. I can just think of it and remember that it exists to be like, yeah, that's good, that makes me happy.
Amaterasu protects you.
Amaterasu protects me. You know, it's a lovely game to inhabit. Everything is light-hearted and lively and lovingly put together. But there are just a few moments where that just falls apart, and these are really petty gripes, right? You know, I can't go, oh, these are terrible. But certain things, the digging challenges in Okami. I don't know how well you guys remember Okami, but
I don't remember the digging.
the
That's
digging
probably
bit. There's a
good
few
reason.
bits where you got to dig,
Right.
right? To there's one bit where a guy's looking for some treasure. There's another bit where you've got to get the spring, the sparrow spring going again. And these digging bits, right? They're just, you go from this relaxing experience of gorgeous music to these really frantic, like, timed digging challenges with really tight time limits and really awkward controls, because there's always a guy that you have to, like, guide through and, like, use the wind to make sure he doesn't hit the spikes, and use the water spout to make him go up, and use the slash to make him go in different directions, and it just doesn't control very well. And, as I say, the time limits are unreasonable, so you end up failing at these, and it's like, I'm getting frustrated at Okami for the only time I ever will, because it's a game that really does not frustrate you very
So
much.
peaceful and serene everywhere.
Yeah, it is. And not only that, the music, when you're doing these digging bits, it's going dun 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 dun. So it's really atonal, and like the tone just shifts, and it's like suddenly I'm panicking, and I don't want to panic when I play Okami. I want the opposite of panic. I want to just sit there and enjoy. I mean, I enjoy its more tragic elements as well, but it's such a lovely game, and then it just does that. And the final shout out is that irritating wall boss. You remember him? Is he called Blockhead? He might be called Mr. Wall. I don't know.
Okay.
But he's like, oh, you've got to find my special weak spots, and then like you headbutt him, and then his weak spots like flash up briefly, and you got to like paint a dot on them.
Right.
And it's like the first couple of times he's got 2 weak spots, boom boom. But then it gets to the point later on where you'll meet like his cousin or something. He's got like cousin Wall, yeah. And he's got like 9 weak spots, and they flash up and they go bim 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 bim, and then you have to be so exact that me and my friends, we always ended up getting my phones out and filming the screen and pausing it because it's that awkward.
Right.
So shout out to, I think he's called Blockhead.
we're calling him now.
Called Captain Wall.
Idiot.
Yeah, stupid blockhead man, hate you. But mostly digging to the theme of dun 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 dun. No, I don't want to panic playing Okami. Thank you very much.